Life is about taking risk, advocating for who you are and what you believe in, no matter the circumstances. That is a risk. This show highlights life and the risks people are willing to take to enjoy it. From food, fashion, sports, entertainment, and daily conversations. The Advocate gives the people of Delaware a platform to tell their stories, and it's not always perfect. And I've been in foster care for about 4 years now. But it's worth it. I'm Jamila Mustafa, host of the newly anticipated web series, The Advocate, also featured on Channel 28 Wednesdays at 5:30 p.m. We want to know, what will you be an advocate for? Your access has been granted. I'm Jamila Mustafa with The Advocate in New York City at the Women of Excellence Salute, honoring some of the leading ladies in African American cinema. Jamila Mustafa with The Advocate in New York City, and I'm standing here with the fashionista herself, Miss Sophia Davis, CEO of Fashion Avenue magazine. Hello, Miss Davis, how are you?
How are you? I'm fabulous.
And you look fabulous. It's an honor to stand here before you. Such a woman of high fashion. Tell us a little bit about the magazine, the company, the television show, and the enterprise within itself.
Okay, well, Fashion Avenue News was developed because it wanted to give a platform for the independent and emerging fashion talent. That can be a designer, makeup artist, stylist, whatever you were. If you did not have a platform, we were the ones. Now, we developed a luxury, global, high-end platform because a lot of times when you see some platforms, they're not conducive to what we really are. So we wanted to show you in all our glory what we really are. So we have that, Fashion Avenue News magazine, which is 5 years old. Now, we also have another magazine that just opened up in July, Model World, which features models in their world and what you need to do to be a model. Jamila Mustafa in New York City. I'm standing here with multi-award-winning journalist Miss Flo Anthony and award recipient today. Hello.
Hello. How are you?
Oh my God, I'm doing wonderful. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
What does an award like this mean to you?
That I'm old. No, it's really, really wonderful. It's been a long time. I've worked hard throughout my career, so it's always wonderful to be recognized. I appreciate it so much.
Tell me about Black Expressions and what was that journey like creating such a movement?
Well, I didn't create Black Expressions. I'm a Black Expressions best-selling author.
Yes.
With my book, Deadly Stuff Players. I hope to become one again with my new book, One Last.
Oh, you will. You got to claim it.
But yeah, I'm a Black Expressions best-selling author, and it meant so much to me because they'd actually advertised in my magazine before. They'd been an insert. So to be, recognized, in fact, I was number 2 on the Black Expressions best-selling list.
Wow. So, woman of excellence. Who is a woman of excellence that you look up to, especially as being an author and a journalist?
Oh, well, there's just so many. Camille Cosby, Kathy Hughes, Janet Langhart, Cohen, Hillary Rodham Clinton. There's just so many women that I admire so much that we've all stood on the shoulders of. And when I look at a beautiful young woman like you out here with a microphone and finally seeing a camera, I know that I've done something right. So, just to see someone like you just out here, doing your thing in the field of journalism.
Jamila Mustafa with The Advocate, and we're here in New York City. And right now I'm standing here with Miss Tara Renee, the woman of the hour and a woman of excellence herself. I'm going to jump right into it. Tell me what it took to put together such a sophisticated event this evening.
Prayer, faith,
Believe and trust in God and people who certainly captured the vision, who had resources to help support the vision. So I'm very grateful to be here.
Why celebrate African American women in cinema? What is the significance of their role?
Well, there's a lot that I can say about that. It can be like 5 hours, but I'm gonna try to do like a 30-second version. I noticed that there was a lot of underrepresentation, and instead of complaining about it, I wanted to do something about it. I heard a word tonight that really stood out in me, and the word was legacy. And so when I make my transition from this world, I want to leave a legacy of that somebody tried to make it a little easier for the creative talents in the next generation.
You are anointed. I can just feel it as you spoke those words. It's almost as if she spoke to my soul. May I ask you one last question? What are you an advocate for?
I'm an advocate for women issues across the board.
It's such a blessing. If you could just feel her vibe, feel her ordainedness. I mean, it's truly a blessing to be here. She brought celebrities out. She brought stars out. There was proclamation givings, Emmy Award winning women here of color. And thank you so much for having the courage to put together such a sophisticated event for women of color. I'm honored to stand here with you. The Advocate, New York City, Jamila Mustafa.
I would say Brenda clothed and accessorized about a third of these dolls. It's very significant learning our culture because it's not being taught even in schools nowadays. When she saw that first doll in 1979, she said it was so dirty and messed up, but it was cute. And she brought it home, she cleaned it up, fixed it up, did the hair, and that inspired her from that point on, she said. Just that one doll inspired her. She calls this her glamour doll section, her grandma, grandpa section, and wedding section. And the glamour dolls primarily consist of the porcelain. These dolls came from flea markets, yard sales, garage sales, thrift stores, donations. People would come and see these dolls and realize they have dolls laying around at home that's unattended to. They would bring them. We have friends who have been in the military and friends who've traveled abroad who have seen her collection and know she collects dolls, and they just bring a doll back and happy to contribute to the collection. That, what I call my Brenda doll in the corner, it reminds me so much of her. She actually dressed in an outfit that looked similar to that. Her complexion resembles her hair resembles how she had her hair at times. And if you ever wanted to see what Brenda looked like without knowing her or haven't ever seen her, if you look at that doll, you got a spitting image of her. When it would come to our culture, a lot of these dolls, she would have different stories for them, and I really actually wouldn't believe them, and I would argue the point, and she would prove it to me. And it got to the point where I stopped arguing because she was always right. Everything she said, she really knew. She would write the captions, she would read stories on them and get information about the dolls or that the group of doll displays, and the captions would come from that. The older dolls have markings on the back of them, which gives you an idea how old they are. She wanted to make sure they understood the struggle that we had to come through to get to where we are today, not that we have arrived. And you'll see a lot of different things here and that represent what we went through, from the chain gang to the slavery auction block back there. We want our legacy to stay alive. We don't want our younger generation, children and children's children, exposed to what the current events are and forget about our past. We need to leave a legacy of where we came from because we had a great impact in this country. One of her favorite scriptures was Proverbs 22:6, which was train up a child in the way he should go. When he is old, he will not depart from it. And so she would always make sure our grandchildren were raised right and had well-mannered and go to church and so forth. So this display is primarily young people, and at this age is when we need to start training them up so that they learn how to do things right, and so that when they grow old, they won't depart from those things. Our young people have an inferiority complex of who they really are culture-wise. So it's important, I think, that even through dolls that our young people get to learn more about who they are and be proud of who they are. Rag dolls is dolls that, these are ones you usually find if you find them used. They're pretty messed up, and she cleans them up and fix them up and make them to what they look like as you see them here. What my wife Brenda wanted to relate to people and young girls especially is not to be ashamed of your ethnicity or what your skin tone color is, because you're fearfully and wonderfully made is what she wanted them to know. No matter whether you're light skin or dark skin, you're fearfully and beautifully made. And so these dolls would represent that too, because you notice there's a lot of different skin tone colors in here, and even some of the dark ones are just as pretty and nice as the light skinned ones. And we wanted people to understand that.
This is the #1 advocate here, and we are at the 27th Annual Black Achievers Dinner. We have the Youth Black Achievers, Teen Black Achievers, as well as nonprofits from the community and community members here celebrating what has been an excellent year for the Achievers. So stay tuned and see what everybody's done over the last year.
But there were some lessons that I learned on that floor that I want to share with y'all. The first thing that I learned was to listen. It would have been easy to ignore this gentleman because of how he looked. It would have been easy to ignore him because of how he smelled, because of what he did, because of how society perceived him. But he had wisdom for me that changed my life. I had to listen to him. The lesson for achievement for our young people and for us grown people is to engage in deep forms of listening. We must listen to folk even when we think they don't know what they talk about. By virtue of their appearance, by virtue of their class status, by virtue of their race, by virtue of their gender, by virtue of their sexual identity, we decide that certain people aren't worth listening to. We live in a nation that don't listen to poor people. We can run for president, we can run for governor, we can run for mayor. We ain't got to say poor people's name. We must listen to them because they have something to offer. But sometimes as we start achieving, we start forgetting that the people who got us there may not have the degrees we have, may not have the status that we have, may not have the names and the letters behind their name, but they still got something to offer, because if you got a PhD or an MBA or whatever, you did it to somebody who ain't have one, had the strength to pack your lunch, had the commitment to help you with your homework. They worked for you, they struggled for you, they sacrificed for you, they prayed for you, they stood in the gap so you could do it. So don't ever stop listening to everybody.
We are here with Mr. Mark Lamont, and we just heard a tremendous speech where you talked about a number of things. You talked about home, you talked about love, you talked about these things that almost seem new to some of our communities. I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but Wilmington is known as Murder Town, USA. And it's that way because of, how they do the statistics and how per capita, And you talked about, not becoming a statistic. You talked about your story.
Yeah.
So after, talking about the adversity you faced, what is the biggest message that you wanted the youth here to actually take away?
Take action. We have to take action, and taking action means partly taking action in your own life, making those healthy choices I talked about, working hard, finding networks of support and love, recognizing the beauty and power of our own selves. But people can behave well all they want. If they don't have access to resources, quality schools, safe streets, none of it matters. So part of what taking action means is to not just work on the self, but to work on society, to build a world that is more livable, that is more safe, that is more loving. That means that all of us must mentor, all of us must organize, all of us must join organizations, all of us must struggle together, and if we do that, we might be able to win.
What are you an advocate for?
I'm an advocate for freedom, justice, and peace. If we are free, then the next step is equality. Because if you're free but not equal, you're free to starve, you're free to lay on the street, you're free to have poor schools. But after that equality comes justice. Same rules for everybody. Same outcomes for people who put in the same effort. And peace. Justice is a precondition for peace. We'll never have a peaceful world if there's no justice. But if we have justice, we can begin to produce the world that has peace. And that's what I dream of.
So I want to thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you for doing this interview.
My pleasure.
And so what you heard here is pretty much what the Advocate has stood for over the last year. We talk about the peace in our streets. We talk about equal school systems, and we talk about, empowering our youth to do more in their communities. So you heard it first here from Mr. Mark Lamont, and we just encourage everybody to stay encouraged, stay blessed, and make sure that you increase the peace in the streets. It's the #1 Advocate checking out.
So I'm going to walk you through the facility in a similar way to how a client would move through the program. We have a number of clients that come into the program that are victims of domestic violence. We have a number that come in that are the latest in a generation of living in poverty and have never really been in a stable environment with structure and supports in place to help them learn skills, practice skills, and really give them an opportunity to kind of pull themselves up from the bootstraps. That's what we provide here for them.
When we really started to find out about this in Delaware, the YW has been hearing about this, hearing some scuttlebutt about this for a couple of years. But this last year is when it really dramatically came to a head, when we were literally asked to have a meeting with some people that work with HUD and make some decisions on a local level regarding this, and asked to reallocate to this new model or face losing our funding. We were notified of that in July. The notice of what HUD calls the funding availability notice for the renewals came out about 2 weeks ago, and we will find out between October 19th and November 19th whether or not we lose our funding. Our commitment to this is that whether or not we're funded again, we are going to continue to resist what HUD is doing. We think they're doing it with really good intentions, but the result of it is it's hurting homeless families and homeless kids who are the most vulnerable. I've been doing this work since I was 19 years old, and I started the first shelter for homeless youth. I've worked with 10-year-olds who are on the streets. And it used to be that those 10-year-olds had a place to go. Now they don't. And if HUD continues, it's going to only get worse, and that's not okay. And so what we're looking for is people who can volunteer their time, whether they're attorneys or people with experience in legislative issues, to help us advance this on a national level, because we don't have those resources. And then also, especially if we lose our HUD money, that's 1/3 of the funding for Home Life. That's going to seriously compromise our ability to serve our families and continue to achieve more than a 90% success rate without, to be really candid, money. And the way that you can help Home Life is by going to our website, www.ywcade.org, and clicking on the I've Got the YWCA's Back link. And then you can find out how to help, who to contact, and more about the situation.